Welcome to My Beading Heart, the do-it-yourself jewelry making show. I am Janine Gerade, and today I am with my friend Nicole. We are making polymer clay heart pendants using stamp and ink to decorate the pendants. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
So this is what we're going to make today. This is really pretty little pendant. And what we did was we used pigment inks to stamp and make the decoration on top. It's very simple. It's a nice, fun project to do, and you can even do it with your kids. I would suggest probably over the age of 3.
I think so.
Yeah. So some of the supplies that I brought were, this is Fimo clay. I use Fimo Soft or Fimo Effect. And when you open the package, you want to make sure, I know it's tiny, but you want to make sure you read the directions in the back. There's several languages in here, but the most important thing on here is what to bake it at, because you're going to bake this in a toaster oven. If you don't have a toaster oven, you can use your home oven, but I highly suggest that you do a good cleaning afterwards, because it is a polymer product, and sometimes it releases a fume, and you just want to give it a good wipe down.
Where do you buy that?
The Fimo is available at all craft stores. They have different types.
Like AC Moore, Michaels?
Yes, absolutely. Joann's has it too. Okay. I like to use the soft. It's easier to work with. Mm-hmm. I got some cornstarch here just in case things get a little sticky. We probably won't be using that today. I brought pigment ink, which you can get at all the major craft stores. You want to make sure it's not an alcohol-based ink. You want to do like a pigment. And they come with a little sponge on there. It just shows up better on the clay. I got some great stamps here, also from the craft store. You can get them online as well. I got all different kinds. I got some big ones, and I have a smaller one that I like to work with because it's similar to the size of the stamp, the cutter we're going to use. This is a regular cookie cutter. I also have what they're called Kemper cutters. These are good quality metal cutters. These are used for crafting. This one you can use for baking as well, but once you use it with clay, you want to really wash it well.
And the rubber stamps, you can get those any craft store? Any
craft store, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I tend to pick something that doesn't really have to be in any direction. You can use this. This is writing on here, but I can't tell what it is. It's just kind of like a pretty pattern. And I like to use patterns that you can use. This is all inked up. This is my used one. But yeah, it's really pretty once it's done.
And I guess if you might have some, you could just use the edge of it.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a
You don't have to cover the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many ways that you can use this clay. It's a little bit overwhelming, so that's why I wanted to start with a really simple project. Okay. Some of these are some of the finishing supplies. This is wet dry sanding paper, and I soaked it in a little bit of water because you want to sand baked polymer clay in water, because otherwise the little bits will get in the air. You don't want to breathe that in as well. So the water keeps it inside the bowl. And then this is a Sculpty glaze, and that gives it a nice gloss. I didn't use it on these. I just got this yesterday, but this is great to seal in the ink. You want to seal it. All right, so what we did, we worked ahead a little bit, and we took some clay, we broke off probably about 1/4 of the bar, and we rolled it in our hands. This is something that you can do while you're watching TV or just hanging out. You know, it's kind of a stress reliever, really.
Like just to warm it up and soften it.
Yeah, yeah. Your body temperature will warm up the clay. And then I flattened it into a pancake. And I wanted to make sure that the pancake was the size of my cookie cutter.
And you flattened it with the roller?
This you can also get at the craft store. This is a lucite roller. If you have an old rolling pin at home, you can use that as well. As I said, you got to make sure it's real clean. You can just roll it out. And I also use, this is a great tool for polymer clay. This is a pasta machine. And once I roll clay through it, it's always going to be for clay. It has little bits and compartments on the inside, so you don't ever want to make pasta with it again. But if you have one of these hanging around, some people do. Cool. A couple people have given me their pasta machines. Like, I don't use it. So then this has different thickness settings on here. The rollers go in and out. And what you do is you just pull this and adjust it. I don't know if you could see the rollers moving, but that tells you how thick the sheet's going to be. I'm going to do the thickest setting. I want it nice and thick. And then it has a handle that goes on. And we just roll it through. It has a clamp that goes to the table. I didn't use that today, but that keeps it from moving around. Just roll it right through and get a nice big sheet. All right, now here comes the fun part. We're gonna stamp. So did you choose your stamp already?
I did.
Okay.
I love this one.
I'm really loving this one too. I'm just gonna give this a quick ink. See, we're not gonna squish it on like this like you normally would.
Okay.
We're gonna rub it on. Just kind of gives it more of a textured feel, a little even. This stuff doesn't dry as quick as regular ink. Pigment inks are great for that. Tap it on a little bit. Here, you give it a try.
Okay.
I'm gonna center it on my clay, and I'm just gonna do medium pressure, both hands. Rock it a little bit of pressure on the corners, but not slamming it down, just doing a little bit. All right, I think it came out pretty good.
That was pretty.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to use the cutter. I have the smaller one and the larger one. We can take turns. I'm going to line it up. This I'm going to give full pressure to because I want it to go down. Some cutters may cut all the way through, some don't. The metal ones will. A plastic one, not so much.
See mine?
Oh, I like that. That's so cool with the number right there. Thank you. All right, I'm using a X-Acto knife to kind of trim it out a little bit. So if your cutter goes all the way through, then you don't need to do this. Take off my extra clay. Put that aside. All right, you'll see there's some little edges here. You can kind of clean that up with your knife, but you don't have to do that because we're going to sand it off later once it's baked. Another thing I'm going to do, I said in my instructions, if you had like a coffee stirrer or a small straw, that's what I'd use to make the holes for this. I happen to have a tiny little cutter that came with a kit, but I think a coffee stirrer would be good. Mm-hmm. You can also just use a dowel and just kind of go in and make a little hole like that too. Would you like to use this?
X-Acto? What did you go around?
I did it with this is like a bead poking tool. This is to make beads with polymer clay.
Okay.
I think this is available in the craft store. It's like a large needle. You can do that in small holes, or I can use the cutter for large ones.
But for the edge.
Yeah, for picking up those little bits in the edge, I would use that or the X-Acto. Okay, so I got the holes there. Cleaned it up. And the last thing I have here for tools, this is called a tissue blade. This is a very, very thin, flexible blade. And I'm basically using this to cut this off of the surface so I can move it. Because what will happen is if I leave it on here and just bake it right on, sometimes it just has shiny spots and dull spots. So I kind of loosened it up off the tray.
Okay. The cutter, the little hole cutter.
Here you go.
Cute.
Scalpel. Okay. So I loosen that up. This is what I'm going to bake it on. This is a regular ceramic tile. I got this at Lowe's or Home Depot. And you could bake it right on there. So you got your cutter.
And if you don't have a tile, can you use like the tray for the toaster oven or a cookie sheet?
I have done that in the past. The only thing is it tends to burn a little bit at the bottom.
Oh.
Yeah, because I think the way the heat's distributed with the tile is a little bit more even than the metal. If you have to, maybe put a little cornstarch on it before you put your clay on. I know it's going to slip around, so maybe you take it off
Good idea.
your work surface and put it on the metal tray. Excellent. Clean up my clay. It's a little messy, but not really messy until you bring in the cornstarch. That's why I didn't use it today.
So cornstarch you would use instead, like, as if you were baking, you would use flour?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. You use it on your rolling pin, and it doesn't affect the clay, it doesn't change the color of it, and it bakes right off, which is good. Some people even will have a bowl of, when you make beads out of polymer clay, they'll have a bowl of cornstarch and they'll pop the beads in there. Because what happens is if you put the beads on a flat surface, it's going to flatten out that edge. So if you want your beads all the way around, you put in a bowl of cornstarch and nothing really happens to it. You take them out and wash them off and they're fine. All right, so I'm going to put this aside. We're going to pretend here that these are baking in the oven according to the directions on the plastic. Put this on my baking tray. Thank you. Flatten that down. And I have one in here already done. We'll do that. Okay, so these are baked and cooled. And once you loosen them up a little, they come right off. Different. They still do a little bit of little shine against the, but that can be polished off. So this is the next step, is the finishing. So we have this, it's slightly flexible, but it's pretty hard. It's not going to crack or bake, not going to crack or break. So I'm going to put it in the water. I'm going to take this, fold it in half so it's easier to work with. And I'm going to keep dipping both pieces in the water as I sand the edges. This is the wet, dry sandpaper. You can get this at any hardware store. I got this at Lowe's. They have a kit, or it has different grits. I start with a 400 sanding grit, then I go to a 600, 800. You can go even up to 1,000. 1,000 gives it a nice matte finish. It's nice and soft. So we just sand the edges. A little bit of the top, but not too much. We've got to be gentle because of the ink. We don't want to file that all off. And then we sand some of this. So you also don't need to, you don't have to, if you don't have this, you don't have to finish it. It's okay. It's got a little bit of the rough edges. You can clip them off. You can use the X-Acto to kind of shave it off a little bit.
I think I have to sand mine.
Would you like to give it a try?
Yes, please.
I'll let this dry over here. So you can shave it off a little, just be careful. So you want to spend about a minute or two on each sanding grit, move on to the next one, and just keep dunking it in the water so the sand, the sanding fibers don't go everywhere.
And today we just have this?
Yeah, just that grit for now, for show, yeah. I want you to sit here and go through the whole process. It's a good 20-minute sit by the TV project type of thing. Once the kid's making and everything, they go and do snack time or whatever, and you get stuck doing the sanding.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. So then to finish it, I had this necklace here. I bought this at Michael's. It came in the package in the beading section. It was a full necklace, and I basically cut it. And I'm going to add some loops. This loop needs to go, though. I'm going to add some loops through the heart. Which one should I finish?
The one you sanded.
Okay. Just going to dry that off a little bit. Okay. So you can use your thumb and twist it open, but I just got my nails done. So I'm going to use 2. And I'm going to use my wrist to just twist it towards me, and that opens the jump ring. Put it through. Add the necklace part very carefully. Always takes a minute or so to get it just right. looped it on. So you can use any type of chain that has just a decent sized loop on it. Any finish you like. I use a dark and silver and regular silver. You can do gold. Rose gold's really big right now. There we go. Get that right on there. I'm also wearing another example of what you can do with these charms. I used a smaller heart on here.
That's pretty.
Yeah, so I used smaller hearts, and I put the loops through a larger chain, so there's a loop on each one. I did like every 3 loops on my chain, I stuck one on, and I attached it with the jump ring.
Very pretty.
Yeah, so I used the smaller cutter, to do a bunch of little ones. Kind of use up the extra clay from doing the large one. But this is it.
So pretty. Do you want to see what it looks like on?
Yes, please.
Because I need jewelry. So if I can do this.
Do you need help?
No.
I love it. That one's for you.
Oh, thank you, Janine.
You're welcome. Happy Valentine's
Happy
Day.
Valentine's Day.
Thank you so much for joining us at My Beading Heart. And thank you so much, Nicole.
You're welcome.
All right.